Whoa, Skittles, drop it. Power panel of two. Jayar Jackson, Cenk, Uygur. More power than you can handle.
Is this the first? What?
I'm pretty sure we would have made an excellent wrestling tag team.
Well, which one of us is going to be it? You have to have an acrobatic flyer on your tag team, and then like the boot who goes around and just says dirty things and takes out people. We got to find out which one, because honestly, I'd be willing to do both.
No, I hear you, but since you ran hurdles, I think you got to be the acrobatic dude. Oh, plus, since I'm 250 pounds, I couldn't do it if my life depended on it. So I got to be the trash talking guy.
I'm glad you brought it up, because sorry to begin this way. First off, hello, welcome to Young Turks, power. But I keep meaning to tease John about this, because we talked about it before Damage Report, Jayar Wednesday's Damage Report, and how I have significantly lost weight in quarantine and in lockdown, even as things have lightened up and we've been getting outside. Bro, I'm under 200 pounds consistently, and I have no idea what happened.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Soon I'll be.
Trust me, I'm not eating. Trust me, I have not been eating carrots and vegetables every day. So that has not been like that.
All right, let me do some programming notes before we get started. So tonight, Common Room is back, including with Jayar and Brett Ehrlich. But we've got two producers on. You want to meet our producers? They're kind of awesome. So Asher and Ashwarya for the first time ever on air. Whoa, what is this? So twitch.tv/TYT, that's tonight at 9:00 Eastern, twitch.tv/TYT. So check that out, fun for everybody. And then Brett's also got movie night tomorrow night on Twitch. That's at 8:00 Eastern. And there's a poll, by the way, if you want to help them pick out which movie, tyt.com/polls/movie night. So that's tomorrow night at 8:00 Eastern. Check that out. You got Election, you got Roadhouse, Spanglish, and Dirty Dancing. Either way, no one will put Brett in a corner. So twitch.tv/TYT. All right, now last programming note, and I love this one. We're doing Hero Day on next Tuesday, okay? July 21st, it's gonna start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You got the main show before, you got and a live post game for everybody. And then afterwards, you've got old school. So it's a mega day. So what does Hero Day mean? It's not Hero Ball, where you hog up everything. It's Hero Day, where you explain who your heroes are in your personal life. Who's been a hero to you? So there's going to be some surprises and drums there. We actually asked you guys the same question, our members and stuff. We'll share that as well. I think you guys are going to love that show. So make sure you catch that. All right, let's get started on today's show. Jayar Jackson, what's up first?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Cenk, because we have a brewing situation going on in Georgia between governor and mayor of Atlanta. So as corona cases continue to rise in Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp, he's escalated his battle with Atlanta's mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. He's suing the city and the mayor. He just started this whole thing yesterday on Thursday. So the lawsuit comes after Lance Bottoms introduced her mandatory mask ordinance that makes not wearing a mask within Atlanta city limits punishable by a fine and up to 6 months in jail. So Brian Kemp decided to go ahead and block that and create like a statewide mandate to not force people to wear masks, but allow them to kind of figure it on their own. So he had a series of tweets to explain himself. He started off by saying, someone pointed out, he said, this lawsuit is on behalf of the Atlanta business owners and their hardworking employees struggling to survive during these difficult times. He went on to say, these men and women are doing their very best to put food on the table for their families while local elected officials shutter businesses and undermine economic growth. You see where he's going with this. The third part was just like sending in the Georgia Guard to protect these living in our capital city from crime and violence, I refuse to sit back and watch as disastrous policies threaten the lives and livelihoods of our citizens. And lastly, we will stop we will fight to stop these reckless actions and put people over pandemic policies. So, of course, the mayor of Atlanta, she responded. Keisha Lance Bottoms responded also on Twitter. She responds by saying 3,104 Georgians have died, and I and my family are amongst the 106,000 who tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, I've been sued by Governor Kemp for a mask mandate. A better use of taxpayer money would be to expand testing and contact tracing. So we'll see where this all falls out and see where people fall in. But before we get to more of the things that Kemp had to say today about it, and also Bottoms had to say about it, because they continued this feud to television. What's your thoughts, Christian?
Yeah, so I think Mayor Bottoms is absolutely right about the timing of this too. She points out that there's several Georgia cities had already done a mask mandate, and Kemp had not said anything about it. But when she did one in Atlanta, and then President Trump was at the airport, and she mentioned that he was not wearing a mask, all of a sudden Trump and Kemp caught feelings. And they should be more worried about people catching the disease, but they caught their feelings and they were like, oh yeah, let's go after her, okay? And so I don't know if Trump asked Kemp personally to do it, or Kemp, being the lapdog that he is, thought, this will please the boss. And so it's a layup for them, going after the black female mayor of a predominantly black city in Georgia, saying that you should follow science and protect people's lives. They're like, we're against everything you just said. So they go after her and say they're going to sue. Is it a waste of time and money? Of course, tremendous waste of taxpayer money. So look, we just broke the record yesterday. I think we had 77,000 cases, the most we've ever had in America, and we're leading the world. So the most anybody's ever had in coronavirus cases, and jackasses like Kemp are still going around saying, no, freedom, dude. We need freedom to catch the coronavirus and break even more records and get even more people killed.
Yeah, let's hear more of what he had to say today at a press conference, because I've listened to it countless times. I'm trying to figure out the logic behind this thought process. Let's go to what he had to say.
Now, I know that many well-intentioned and well-informed Georgians want a mask mandate. And while we all agree that wearing a mask is effective, I'm confident that Georgians don't need a mandate to do the right thing. Instead of issuing mandates that are confusing and unenforceable, I'm asking all local leaders to enforce the current executive order. Enforce the rules that we have put in place to keep employees and customers safe at local businesses. Enforce the provisions that ensure folks are staying 6 feet apart at large gatherings. Enforce measures to protect the medically fragile. And use your bully pulpit, your social media challenge, and your connections with the local media to help build support for wearing a mask when needed.
Okay. So tell me if I'm losing my mind. But he says there are unenforceable rules that the Atlanta mayor wants to put into place. Literally, the next sentence begins with, let's go with enforceable restrictions on the people, like distancing. Make sure you do, there was like 3 or 4 parts. Make sure you do this right. Make sure you do that right. He wrote through all of these and he said, enforce it. Enforce. But I don't want to enforce the mask mandate. Why are you enforcing other things when you can't enforce that, but it's unenforceable? I'm not sure why. If maybe there is a reason. So tell me, this one mandate is not enforceable, but the ones that are put in my executive order are enforceable. Why?
Yeah, there's that. Plus, none of this makes any sense. It's to keep people safe, right? So we do a lot of things to keep people safe, including having cops and having laws. So under his logic, couldn't we say, look, we don't need a mandate on this. You know, the good people in Georgia know not to mug each other. So we don't need a law saying don't mug each other or don't punch each other in the face. We'll just trust that the good people in Georgia will just naturally do it. Except when you trust that people not punch each other in the face, you know what happens? People punch each other in the face. And so there's muggings, there's a reason why we have laws, and it is to keep us safe. Now, is there an epidemic of face punching going on? No. Is there an epidemic of an actual disease going around killing hundreds of thousands of people and Americans? Yeah, there is. So over 140,000 Americans are dead. Could you imagine if there was any crime that killed 140,000 Americans, and that you could prevent that crime with something as simple as mandating a mask when you're out in public? Well, imagine if you there's the terrorists are on the loose, and if these unbelievably effective terrorists have killed 140,000 Americans. How many 9/11s is that? It's hard to do the math on that one. Okay, that's nearly what, 50 9/11s? And so, but hey guys, good news. The terrorist bullets and bombs are stopped by a face mask. Who would say, nah, don't wear them, freedom?
Yeah. We have a direct thing. Every time, this is something new, right? People are uncomfortable with the newness of it. So we've had other things that come upon us that we've discovered kills Americans or kills people in general with negligence and all that. And then there's things put in place like seatbelts. I know that's the most basic example that everyone's giving. But okay, so when cell phones were bigger, and now everyone has a smartphone, everyone wants to text, everyone wants to check their Instagram, everyone wants to tweet while they're driving. You know what? There's these, specifically in California, I haven't been in many other states, but I've seen them actually enforce it, but I've seen it here, where there's cell phone laws. It's on your freeway. It's on the digital markers on your freeway. It says, put down your cell phone. Cell phones get, cell phone in hand is a punishable ticket. Now, that's a rule. People still have their cell phones in their hands when they're driving, because we've seen that so many people have been killed and have killed others from driving with their cell phones. It is a law. Why are we not up in arms about how dare you tell me not to put my cell phone in my hand while I'm driving? Yeah, sure, some people died, but every time I've done it, I've not killed anyone yet. It's a new thing. You got to get used to it. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great analogy, Jayar. And you could make the same exact argument. A freedom. I got a freedom to text in the middle of the road, man. And good people in Georgia know that we don't need a mandate for that. And that's an issue that has not killed 140,000 Americans. So none of this makes any sense. It's all political. It's the Republicans in an insane attempt to prove how tough they are. It reminds me, honestly, like really uneducated people in any country. But I remember when it happened, and I'll throw Turkish people under a bus here, but if you fill in the blank on any country here. But when AIDS first came around, they did a lot of public service announcements in Turkey telling folks, hey, don't have unprotected sex. And some of the uneducated folks in Turkey were like, no, AIDS doesn't cut us. Okay, what that means is no, we're so tough that AIDS will not penetrate us. That's insane, of course. That's not how science works. And we're led by Turkish villagers here going, oh no, coronavirus doesn't cut us, man. We don't need no stinking mask. Meanwhile, we're leading the world in coronavirus deaths, you morons. So no, look, this election and now all elections going forward is really a matter of smart people versus stupid people. And if you're in the Republican Party and you think that you're tougher than coronavirus and you don't need masks, you are a stupid person. You're literally stupid. And so if you want to vote for Republicans who want to get people killed because they don't want to do the simplest protection of society and want to get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people killed, you're a stupid person. And you're killing us all.
Even if you want to be greedy, even if you want to be greedy and go with the economy, which means the economy can actually get restarted sooner if we hunker down like we should have in the beginning and done what we had to do, then you have a chance to go. I want to skip to the second of the next three graphics really fast about more of Trump's suit, because this not Trump's, Kemp's thing. His lawsuit, or his when he's suing the Atlanta mayor. He said, the suit also opposes more than just the mask ordinance. It also challenges Bottom's call to limit public gatherings to 10 people. So right now, Bottoms is calling for that rather than the 50 that Kemp prefers. So he wants the amount of people that can be around each other to be 50 instead of the 10. He also says that the city has not been enforcing his limit. He says Bottoms doesn't have the authority to order the city to revert to phase guidelines, which is closing restaurant dining rooms and to urge people to stay home except when it's essential, as we were doing at the beginning. So he's just upset that these things are coming forward are not under his rule. That's not what I said. You say 10? Okay, fine, I'll say 50. Okay, if you're a public official, governor of a big state, and you don't give anybody a reason why 50 makes more sense, when there's been reasons why 10 is the number. There's been reasons why 0 was the number first. Why 50 now? I'd be willing to listen to you. Because you know what I like to do? I like to hang around people. Not that I would do it, but if people want to actually get out and you can give people a reason to do it, why can't there be a complete sentence? There's never a complete thought. It's just, I want it to be at 50. Why? Why 50? Why that number? Why not 55? Why not 40? It's an odd thing. It just doesn't give me much confidence in their reasoning behind their rules.
Yeah. So, Jayar, finally, that's exactly what I'm worried about. Look, we all want the economy to reopen. I'm driving through LA, and every day I go out there, there's another store closed. Look, there's the ones that are closed temporarily, you can tell. But no, they put up signs, gone out of business, okay? And we might go another 6 months on this. The economic devastation is going to be horrific. And us progressives are going to care about it a lot more than conservatives. And we're going to be worried about the business owners, the business employees, and how in the world are they going to survive? So reopening those businesses is a priority for all of us. And there is some legitimate debate about how to reopen them. But there is no legitimate debate about whether to wear masks or not. And if you don't wear the mask, as Jayar pointed out, it's going to take longer to reopen those businesses. It's a lose-lose. That's why I'm telling you, it's not this one. Look, there's a ton of confusion over these many months about how coronavirus works, what were the right things to do, et cetera. A lot of that has been settled because some countries handled those so well, Taiwan, New Zealand, Germany, et cetera. And so we have a model for what works. And if Brett, if you have the chart of Europe versus US, throw that up there. And we have a model of what doesn't work. Our model does not work, right? But there's one thing that is crystal clear in every model: wear the goddamn mask. If you don't wear the mask, cases and deaths spike when they don't need to spike. Look at it. Europe did the right things. They're in blue. They go up, they go down. America did the wrong things. We go up and then we go up. And all four countries leading in coronavirus cases are led by right-wing authoritarian nationalist leaders who do not believe in science. US is number 1, Brazil's number 2 with Bolsonaro. He even got COVID himself. And then you got Modi in India and you got Putin in Russia. All four big nationalists. We don't need the world. We don't need no stinking science and all that. And next thing you know, in a worldwide pandemic, it turns out you need the world and you need science. Science is real. But we have Neanderthals like Kemp who are actively suing and wasting taxpayer money to go in the wrong direction. If you vote for that, there's just no excuse for you. So, okay, you want to get people killed? Have at it, Hoss. We're in a democracy. We're going to vote in another direction and hope to God we win. Otherwise, there could be another 140,000 dead.
We just got to make it to November.
Yeah. All right. We got to take a break. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, among the stories we got for you is more White House drama. Now, this time, Trump versus his own defense secretary. Why are they potentially going to war, if you will? We'll be right back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFDR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back in the Young Turks, Cenk and Jayar with you guys. Shout out to our great progressive sponsor, Aspiration. Keep your money in a place where you make a good return. Plus, you help save the planet because they don't put any of your money in fossil fuels. Peace of mind, man. Best thing in the world. Aspiration.com/TYT. Aspiration.com/TYT. All right. The infamous Mr. Joyboy writes in. These are our members. Remember the stats for every white death, there are 2 black or Latino deaths. Kemp is calculating that by losing a few 90-year-old whites, which they would lose in short order anyway, they force a loss of 2 prime age opposition voters, thus possibly extending their business model, i.e. the Southern strategy, for another 10 to 15 years past its natural lifespan. Worst holders of power since bullwhip days. I had not considered that, and that is a level of depravity previously unimaginable. But now that you said it, I was like, damn it. The Republican Party is not above it. There is some chance that if they haven't done so far, they're gonna have a meeting and say, remember, blacks and Latinos are getting it more and they're dying more. It's not impossible. So, all right.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to draw the line at if it's financially beneficial, then they'll go that route. Yes, they really don't care about much of anyone else but themselves, especially folks they shove to the side. But if it helps them financially and it includes that I think can make more sense to me. It's hard for me to put that on them that badly without knowing.
I hear you. I hear you, Jayar, and I'm not sure that they're there yet. And I think they care about the stock market more than they care about any life, white, black, or Latino, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but just like it happened with OxyContin, the minute that you start having more white people die than minorities, like in the case of Oxy, you had more white people getting locked up than black people. All of a sudden, they're like, "Wait, did you know what this war on drugs is a terrible idea? Did you know coronavirus kills people?" So we'll see. Anyway, Mel, Anna, Ted, Afropuffs. I think that's my best guess at your username. Writes in, it's my birthday wish come true. I literally spent the whole day saying that a power panel with Cenk and Jayar would make for the best birthday gift ever. Thanks for making my quarantine birthday a lot more tolerable.
Wow, I don't believe it. How are you gonna call it like that? You know what happens? Every time I call my mother, she lives down in San Diego. Every time I call her, she says, I was just thinking about you, Jay. I was just about to call you. I said, how is it every time I call you, you were just about to call me? Come on, bro.
I love the idea of you telling your mom, come on, bro. I was interviewing Arian Foster last night on our Twitch channel between me and Uygur. That's the show we do Thursday at 8 o'clock. And he says something that I just want to keep saying all the time now. I might be unbearable with it, and I'm not sure I can say it. We'll have to talk about it off air. But of course I can say it anyway. He says "fam" about everything. And he's like, "Oh, that's a good point, fam." And I was like, God, I love that. I want to use that from now on. That's how I got brother. I got it from Desmond on Lost. I love the way he said with his Australian accent. He said, "Yeah, that's a good point, brother." So that's right. So Arian Foster might get me to start saying "fam."
Well, the thing is, we already know you've done this throughout the years, so I'm absolutely not surprised. So it's okay. Good luck.
Yeah. All right. This is a really good point by Chris, one of our members. He says, can't stop thinking about how one idiot nearly 20 years ago tried to light his shoes on fire and failed to kill anyone. Yet we still have to remove our shoes anytime we go to the airport. But wearing a mask to stop a pandemic that's already killed 130,000 Americans is tyranny. No, Chris, that's such a great point. Forget it. I'm never taking my shoes off again at an airport. No, freedom. Freedom, what are you talking about? I'm not gonna live with those stupid mandates. And that one is actually maniacally stupid, right? No one's ever died from shoes on an airplane, ever. Number of deaths, 0. Coronavirus case deaths across the world is over 500,000. Imagine if shoe bombers killed 500,000 people across the world. So, God, I love our members.
Yeah, these are good points. I'm just surprised that thing that you have to stand in the middle of at the airport and do this, that it doesn't detect anything in your shoes. But it definitely detects something in the rest of your body.
Yeah. All right. So YouTube super chat. Last couple ones real quick here. Zero writes in, Jayar's connection is lagging. We know, brother. We're trying to fix it. Okay. So TYT.com/go. So we can have the funds to have decent connections. We're trying, guys. We're trying. Help us out. In fact, let's take a look at the thermometer super quick, and then I'll give you the last comment, and then we'll get back to the story. 61,036, amazing, guys. But like we try to raise 200,000 every month, at least in 2020, and then I think we're gonna be okay in 2021. I'm hoping, I'm crossing our fingers. Right now, we're way behind. We're past the halfway mark of the month, and it says 61,000. If you could help out, that would be amazing. Only if you can, though, guys. Thank you. TYT.com/go. Last thing, Llama Mama says, love you guys. Thanks for all you do. Thanks to TYT, I'm a former uninvolved non-voter to now an aggressive progressive. Love it. Okay. Makes our day every time. All right, Jayar, let's do it.
Okay, next up. So we saw shocking videos of unmarked, unidentified federal officers that have been dispatched to Portland, Oregon to seemingly fight back, abduct American citizens without any real stated cause. So as those have come to light, even more have been coming out today that show some Portland police officers that are getting in on some of the violence. We're gonna go ahead and make sure they make their mark. So in this one video, I just wanna make sure you point out, pay attention to the man on the bike. That is the citizen that catches the violence from these police. Let's check that out.
Across the street from the federal courthouse.
This is Buffalo Police Bureau. The area south of Southwest Street is closed. You must remain on the sidewalk on the north side of Stanley. Street or come south of Stanley, you will be arrested and subject to force. To the north, stay back.
So there you see a cyclist riding down the street in the middle of officers doing whatever it is they're trying to do as far as crowd control there. And he gets tackled, taken down, pummeled, and buried by several cops. There was another angle to this that I also saw to try to give more context of what exactly happened. Because, of course, you're going to get people to say, the police don't just do things like this for no reason. That was 7 to 10 seconds of a guy riding down the street. Maybe he did something. Maybe he had something in his backpack. Maybe he just assaulted someone. Maybe they're following him for months. All these things that you may try and give some reasons behind. I saw an extended version, or at least a version that showed something beforehand of what had happened. I saw it at the last minute. What had happened that I saw, in more context, he was riding the opposite direction at first. A cop was standing behind one of those vans, ifed at him, which people who don't know what ifing is, he jumped up at him like he's about to do something. The guy swerves because he was surprised by someone jumping out from the side of a car to jump at him. He was startled, turned around, came back, yelled something at the officer that lunged at him. After doing that, they all converged. That's the extended version. Now, if he was biking back and forth all day and kicked some cop in the face, I don't know, but I doubt that he was continuing to ride if he had done something like that previously.
Yeah, I mean, look, nonstop excessive force. So was there a better way to get that guy off the bike? Like you said, Jayar, was he committing some sort of federal crime? I don't know, man. These cops, the idea that they're here to protect and serve is hilarious. Maybe the rich and the powerful, but not us.
Yeah, so as this is happening, some pushback is happening from some of the authorities in Oregon. It started at the city level in Portland. The mayor there spoke out. But today, also the Governor Kate Brown of Oregon, she spoke out as well against the situations happening and the seeming takeover of the city. So she says this political theater from President Trump has nothing to do with public safety. The president is failing to lead this nation. Now he's deploying federal officers to patrol the streets of Portland in the blatant use of power by the federal government. She goes on to say, I told Acting Secretary Wolf that the federal government should remove all federal officers from our streets. His response showed me he's on a mission to provoke confrontation for political purposes. Trump is looking for a confrontation in Oregon in the hopes of winning political points in Ohio or Iowa. So that was said by them. And so just for more reminders of who these folks were, some of these unnamed, unmarked, silent soldiers that were taking over the city, they're usually in places where they'll fight drug cartels, or they're stationed in Afghanistan. And that's where we've seen some of these instances of swooping in, taking citizens right off the street, and then throw them in the back of a van without anyone ever knowing where they're going, when they're coming back, or if they're coming back. So that's their MO. That's where they operate. And I think that's the reason why these specific guys were placed in this situation. So more on that approach. There was one of the men, Mark Pettibone, was one of the ones that was abducted by the silent militia group. I'm not sure what to call them. And he told a story. So to the Washington Post, he said, I was terrified. It seemed like it was out of a horror sci-fi, like a Philip K. Dick novel. It was like being preyed upon. So this is the guy that got snatched up and put into a van. He went on to say, I'm basically tossed into the van, and I had my beanie pulled over my face so I couldn't see, and they held my hands over my head. So imagine yourself in that situation, right, when you're just out in the streets as an American citizen, not breaking any laws. Blinded by his hat in an unmarked minivan full of armed people dressed in camouflage and body armor who hadn't identified themselves, Pettibone said that he was driven around downtown before being unloaded inside a building. He would learn until after his release that he had been inside the federal courthouse. One more part of this, Katie Shepard from the Washington Post wrote, but Pettibone said he still does not know who arrested him or whether what happened to him legally qualifies as an arrest. The officers did not tell him why he had been detained or provide him any record of an arrest, is what he told the Post. And as far as he knows, he has not been charged with any crimes. So who knows? Maybe at some point something's going to pop up on his record. Maybe when he's applying for a job or trying to get into a federal building. Who knows? But they didn't tell him anything. But the idea is to terrorize him long enough to make him think, should I come back out here tomorrow? I don't know what's going to happen. Or maybe his friends sitting.
Yeah. All right. So let me give you even more context here. So we covered this on the show for the last couple of days. Portland has had protests that outlasted a lot of the other cities, but both their mayor and the governor of Oregon never called for federal help. In fact, they've now made it clear, and you saw that in some of the quotes that Jayar read, that they are opposed to the federal departments coming in to police the streets, and they think it's actually very dangerous. And I'm going to get to why it's dangerous in a second. But there's potentially 6 different federal agencies that have sent some sort of law enforcement to Portland. Now, all this is vague on purpose. The federal government is basically saying, yeah, we're going to have unmarked cars. A lot of those vans are rented and are not clearly labeled as police, military, or anything else. And they say, well, we have some insignia on our uniforms, but we will not have any names on our uniforms, even though they're supposed to. They say, oh, because we're worried about doxing. So now we have unnamed, unidentified, I don't even know if we should call them cops, law or military. They're not really either. They're federal officials roaming the streets of Portland against the wishes of the democratically elected mayor and governor of that state. So now, why are they there? They claim, oh, we're there for federal law enforcement. Which federal laws? Well, there's a federal building there, and sometimes there's graffiti on it. You brought in some sort of SWAT team from the federal level for graffiti? No, this is Trump playing politics. Remember, he said he was going to show how tough a guy he was? Yeah, I get it. This is what Pinochet did in Chile, where they just snatch up people in the streets and they wouldn't say who they were and they wouldn't say where they were taking them and they wouldn't be officially arresting them. That's why that Pettibone quotes that Jayar read you of a guy who was snatched up from the streets are so important. He's like, I don't even know if I was arrested. They never told me I was arrested. They never told me why they were snatching me up. They didn't know. I didn't know who they were. And then they brought me to a place I didn't know. This is how people in right-wing governments in the past have gotten disappeared, okay? So they haven't done it yet. They haven't disappeared anyone that we know of yet, but they've begun the first part of that. And just like they did in Chile, just like they've done in every authoritarian right-wing governments. First they snatch people up and don't torture or kill them. And then when nobody says anything, they're like, well, that was easy. Now let's torture them. Oh, nobody said anything or couldn't say anything, now let's kill them. I'm not making that up. That has happened dozens of times in other countries in exactly this fact pattern. So now, other than that, other than the potential authoritarian takeover of our government, why else is it dangerous? Well, the local cops are saying, we're not coordinating. We don't want you here. And by the way, since you've shown up, it's gotten more violent, not less violent. So you drove up the violence. We don't know who you are and we don't want you here. And now you might get into a conflict with local cops. Oh, for God's sake. This total authoritarian anarchy on purpose. So we can't have this lawlessness.
Yeah, Trump is.
Sorry, one last thing about that. So out of the different groups that are involved, the largest one, and it likely the one that's in the military fatigues, the one Jayar talked about sometimes goes to Afghanistan, et cetera, is from Custom and Border Patrol. What part of Portland is near usually they're in the US-Mexico border. How is Portland anywhere near the US-Mexico border? What customs issues are we talking about here in Portland, Oregon? So no, it's an excuse to start using paramilitary groups unaccountable to democratically elected officials like mayors and governors.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, I was thinking this. I feel like I saw a quick little thought about it somewhere that, because Trump was talking about how he wants to start going to these blue cities because they don't know how to handle these situations. And we're going to send people to Portland. We're going to send people like we had to do, send them to Minneapolis and send them there. It's like he's floating the full approach that he'd like to have in most of these cities. And so let's see how well this works in Portland. And then we can move on and maybe do it in the next one. Because again, it's a re-election year. And this is a traditional thing. Many times, some presidents are in some trouble. They may start a fight with another country. They may, if there's some kind of conflict already, they may escalate it to make sure that we can't change horses in midstream of this war we're in, right? For some reason, Trump's war, he hates America so much. His war has to be on our own country and our own citizens. He can be like, hey, you guys, now those Antifas are coming for us, so we got to vote against them and vote for me. Like, this seems to be the approach of usually horrible presidents are looking to start wars with other countries. He's looking to start it here. And he gets some backing. And this one last graphic from Fox News, where the headline, this was talking about these situations, where they said DHS accuses Portland officials of enabling the, quote, mob, posts timeline of damage by, quote, violent anarchists. So they quote the mob and they quote violent anarchists in this headline. And also point out that DHS accuses them of it. This releases Fox News to many of the editorializing of this headline. The DHS said so, we didn't say it. So we're not accusing Portland officials of enabling the mob. We quoted mob because DHS said it. We said violent anarchists because DHS said it. And DHS really is, there's this federal entity, this agency that we're supposed to respect and listen to. Who are we gonna listen to, DHS or just some rando? It's all putting it in the lines to make you not think what's really happening is happening.
Yeah, and last comment we'll give to one of our members on our website. Effectos writes in, Cenk, we were taught what to call these federal paramilitary members in high school. Gestapo. All right, if you want to participate in the program like that person just did, tyt.com/join to become a member. We love doing the show together with you guys. We got to fight what's happening in Portland and make sure that does not happen in America. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we got a lot more stories for you.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Jayar with you guys. Members first, Naughtius Maximus says, I should be able to drive with my blindfold on. Quit treading on me, bruh. I love that. Lisa writes in, you're absolutely right, Cenk. The brown shirts aren't coming. They're already here. Where's anyone in power besides the Portland mayor and the governor of Oregon? Just wait until Trump loses the election. Well, first of all, I hope he does lose the election. But if he wins the election, we're all screwed. Isabel Amelia Thompson in YouTube Super Chat says, just bought your dad's book, The Original Young Turk. And Too Much and Never Enough. Good reading in store for this hashtag Trans Young Turk. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. And shop TYT.com to get the crazy stories of my dad's life and how he lived the American dream from literally a dirt poor olive farmer. James McHugh writes in, I'm a member of the Black Unity LA, and we need help finding resources to help the homeless around our campsites in front of LA City Hall. All help appreciated. James, thanks for the shout out to that program. Mark Keister says, oh, hell yeah, JR's on the program. And finally, Thunder Voice on Twitch says, JR is too strong for his mic. So that might be it. That explains it.
No worries. I had my crack staff of an 8-year-old come out and help me out.
All right, that's awesome. All right, guys, thanks for being members on Twitch and YouTube. YouTube's easy. Just click the join button below. Bang. Actually, on Twitch, it's also super easy, especially if you're on Amazon Prime. It's free for you guys. So you can just become a subscriber to us. We get the money, and you guys don't have to spend another dime. Thank you, guys. All right, JR, what's next?
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. So Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, he gave a speech on Thursday about America's stance on human rights. And during that, he launched into an off-the-rails attack against the New York Times 1619 Project. And for those of you who maybe don't know details about it, the 1619 Project is an ongoing initiative from the New York Times Magazine that began in August of 2019, the 400th anniversary of the beginning of American slavery. So it aims to reframe the country's history by placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of our national narrative. So instead of it being the main thing we talk about slavery being Abraham Lincoln, he's a hero, and Civil War is the reason why we fought against this indentured servitude, or maybe some guys who were underpaid a little bit, it's given the real deal about it and what its effects on our country really have been. So, of course, Mike Pompeo could not deal with that. So he went out and spoke against it. He was so proud of the speech that he had against this initiative that he even tweeted himself out. He said, hey, look what I did, you guys. I totally came out here and I downplayed slavery in our country. And I said how great everything always has been. So let's go to a little bit of video of what he really did have to say during that speech.
The New York Times 1619 Project, so named for the year that the first slaves were transported to America, wants you to believe that our country was founded for human bondage. They want you to believe that America's institutions continue to reflect the country's acceptance of slavery at our founding. They want you to believe that Marxist ideology, that America is only the oppressors and the oppressed. The Chinese Communist Party must be gleeful when they see the New York Times spout this ideology. Some people have taken these false doctrines to heart. The rioters pulling down statues, thus see nothing wrong with desecrating monuments to those who fought for our unalienable rights, from our founding to the present day. This is a dark vision of America's birth. I reject it. It's a disturbed reading of our history. It is a slander on our great people.
I'm never sure if when Mike Pompeo is trying to speak and he's trying to say something poignant or slow it down, if it's just that he's completely uninterested or he thinks there's a good acting job of like, and sometimes the communists, just speak, bro. We don't believe anything you're saying already. We know that you're out there acting and putting your face out there to be another shield for the president. We know who you really are. Just say it. Just spit it out. It's okay, because we know that you're going for something horrible in the first place. Anyways, so we can't criticize anything that's happened to our country because we're not the only countries that participated in slavery. They might make you think that our founding fathers were against the rights for all mankind. Well, they specifically consider a certain segment of the population not human. I think we can talk about that a little bit. But we have this problem with being able to address our history and the negative nature of our past. Because if that happens, then, we have communism, we have China celebrating it. China won't celebrate our destruction, or they won't celebrate our infighting if we don't do things to attack our own country and have people rise up and go, you're going to stop stepping on me. It's not going to happen anymore. So when you deny your history and what you've always done in this country and how it continues in other forms today, you can have only yourself to blame for setting up that scenario.
Okay, that's an eloquent response to Pompeo. I was going to go with what my kids normally say. Wait, what? Wait, how do we get to the Chinese communists from slavery? What? What the? Like that took a turn I didn't expect. I think he was just trying to win racist bingo. Oh yeah, black people being enslaved, not that big a deal. Plus, I hate Chinese people and I call them commies. Yeah, bingo, I win. And so what's he trying to win? He's trying to win Trump's base for next time he runs for office. And next time Trump's winning or running, God forbid winning, 2-2-2. So look, there's folks in this country that are uncomfortable with the fact that we had slavery. I hope we're all uncomfortable about it. But you could be in one of two camps. One is bury your head in the sand, pretend it didn't happen, say it's no big deal, let's move on, it was a long time ago. Or you could be in the camp of acknowledging it, and for God's sake, like working to get beyond it. Because unfortunately, this is the heart of our disagreement. We're not beyond it. And Pompeo says, I'm beyond it. I know, dude, because you're white and in power, and it never bothered you. In fact, it gave you a giant leg up. So it's easy for you to say you're beyond it. But the reality is, I was talking about this on an earlier show. When they talk about the post-slavery period, they're not going to be talking about our past. They're going to be talking about now, and unfortunately, quite a bit into our future. It's taking us about 200 years to get past it, and I wish to God it wasn't. But we had Jim Crow for so long. We had redlining. We have the police abusing and arresting and killing African Americans at disproportionate rates today. We have out of control racism today. And so some people want to say, not just that, hey, ignore it, but honestly, they benefit from it. So that if you ignore it, you might not fix it, which then keeps their unfair advantage. And so I just can't stomach these guys anymore. And it comes from the same guys who then turn around and say, no, don't tear down Confederate statues because we have to know our history. Okay, all right, well then let's know about slavery. No, I don't want to know about my history. I don't want to know about it, because if we know about it, then the Chinese communists win.
It's the same thing with COVID. No, we can't allow the reality of the situation to show up because it'll make us look bad. President Trump has directly said it countless times. We can't actually show what's happening, so it'll make us look bad, and he starts comparing to other countries. The point is to look good, but not to do good. That is the basis when we've always done things, since we've done bad things. Every bad thing we do, say it didn't happen, and then move on. Because we can't let people think we look bad. Shall we move on?
Yeah, all right, let's see if we can try to squeeze the next story.
I'm sure I squeeze this in. So, moving on. So, a little bit of potential infighting within the White House. Defense Secretary Mark Esper has banned displays of Confederate flags on military installations without explicitly naming the Confederate flag. So, let's get into some explanations of how that's going to work. So, Esper effectively banned displays of the Confederate battle flag on U.S. military installations, saying in a memo Friday that the flags we fly must accord with the military imperatives of good order and discipline, treating all of our people with the dignity and respect and rejecting divisive symbols. So the memo doesn't explicitly mention Confederate banners, but it does list the kinds of flags that you can fly on these installations, and the Confederate flag is just not one of those. So that's kind of the way it's working out, and it's going to potentially cause a collision with the president, who we already know has been upset about potentially renaming some military some of their
bases.
Some more bases and things like that were named after some of these Confederate generals and names like that. So we'll see where he falls with the flag being flown there too. So we'll see how tight he can go.
So guys, this upcoming election is one of the most important we've ever had in American history. If you watch the Young Turks a long time, you've seen me say that that's not the case for most of the elections we've covered, and we've covered a lot of elections. This is the big one. Because if Trump wins, he gets to say, no, the American people agree with me. The Confederate flag is awesome. The racism and the slavery that it stood for is awesome. And we're not going to rename those bases. And we're going to allow people to fly the Confederate flag on US military bases. Now, I'll do the usual. I'll remind you that the Confederacy went to war with the country of America. So the American military bases being named after our enemies is, at a minimum, quite ironic. I don't think we have any military bases named after Osama bin Laden or Hirohito or Goebbels. And all of those Confederate generals killed more Americans than all the guys I just named. So it's totally unacceptable. The military and the Secretary of Defense are actually on the right side on this. The Joint Chiefs agrees with the Secretary of Defense, and the military is making a stand for America. They're saying, if we're the United States military, we fly United States flags. We do not fly the flags of our enemies. Unfortunately, Trump does not agree. And part of the reason why they didn't specifically mention Confederate flags in that statement is for fear of invoking Trump's wrath. But they're on a collision course. And if Trump wins again, he'll definitely fire Esper. He'll fire the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He'll put in complete lackeys. They'll not only fly the Confederate flag, but then Trump will have gained control over the military. And God knows what that means for the next election if we have one. All right, we have so many more stories for you guys. It's in the post game, including what Mary Trump said about Donald Trump. It gets worse.
Man.
TYT.com/join or hit the join button below on YouTube. We'll see you there in a minute.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.